Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala.
All right, 25 minutes before 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. And I think young people make the best music, Robin.
Yeah.
I really do. And I've always thought this, even now that I'm old. I guess when I was young, I thought, of course, young people make the best music. But let me explain what I mean by this. If you look back in time at any given genre of music, some of the most important pieces of music that came from that genre were created by and or written by people who were still probably not even 20 years old, right?
Exactly.
I know there are exceptions. I know there are, pieces by Beethoven and pieces by, well, I don't really know if by Beethoven, but I know that some of the contemporary musicians have written some good things in their later years. But for the most part, especially trends, especially entire genres, and there's also a racial element here too. I mean, think about our favorite artists when we were younger, right? How many of them, like the Beatles, for example, and Elton John, how many of them, when they asked, when interviewers asked them, who were you influenced by? Oh, Chuck Berry,
Exactly.
Right, and Little Richard, and they would always name this. And it's an interesting thing when we broadcast from the mall. And it's interesting walking out to our cars because this is for the sake of our guest who's listening in. We're 61 years old.
Yeah.
So we walk through the parking lot of the mall, and we hear these kids with these very, very loud cars. Mm-hmm. And you can say, "Oh man, the music isn't like it used to be." Well, it's not. But you know what it's doing for those kids? The same thing it did for you and I. It made us feel good, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Remember, it made us feel good, and I can remember specifically when I was a kid. I was going through something. I was bummed out by something. I don't remember what it was. And Paul McCartney had a new song, and it came on the radio, and it really made me feel better. Now, I don't know that that's exactly what we're going to talk about, but it probably hits on some of the topic of the healing power of hip-hop, which is a book. Intersections of Race, Ethnicity, and Culture. Dr. Raphael Travis Jr. is on the phone. He's an associate professor of social work at Texas State University in San Marcos, Texas. He's an advocate for helping youth to live long, healthy, and productive lives. And his book is the book I just told you the title, The Healing Power of Hip-Hop. Good morning, Dr. Travis. How are you?
Good morning, Larry and Robin. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thank you for being on. I'm guessing you're not the typical age of a hip-hop fan. Am I right?
Well, it depends on, what you consider the typical age.
A kid.
I guess the short answer is yes. And that's one of the things that help people remember is that hip-hop as a culture has been around for 40 years.
That's true.
And so this has been part of my life since my earliest years, and so I have 4 decades of hip hop, and so I very much consider myself the typical listener. But going back to what you were saying in the introduction, and for the record, 61, we still consider you young, so don't sell yourself short.
Oh, okay. So,
but related to your introduction, yes, I believe a lot of attention around hip-hop is directed as, it's considered a youth culture. I argue that it's not, but I do recognize what you're saying is that it's most often associated with the younger generation.
Well, and that might be because I'm old. Maybe that's why. Maybe, do you know what I mean? I might say disco is kid stuff. but anyway, I think what happens in music is that it evolves, and it evolves because young people want something of their own. And I don't know, it's something almost mystical. We don't really understand it, but it happens, and I'm glad it happens.
Yeah, and that's an important thing that we must underscore, and I think you're right about that, is young people want something unique. That particularly when we're talking about adolescence and moving into young adulthood, that's a time of breaking away from the traditional, family and wanting to, individuate and be autonomous and be independent and sort of strike your own path. It's something, and peers become much more significant than the family. And so you have these communities that are established and, very strong social connections, that are made that young people want to be distinct from adults. And music is a natural byproduct of that.
Sometimes people have a not so good interpretation of hip hop. They think that it promotes the bad guys' temperament.
Yes, and that's one of the challenges. And that's a main reason for writing this book is to help people understand hip hop as a culture and more than the narrow sliver of what they may hear on the radio. Or what they may see a video of, and that's really just a small portion, again, of a culture that's been around for 4 decades. And unfortunately, if that's the only exposure that you have, then that can be very limiting and can kind of skew your understanding of how people can learn and how people can grow from how they relate to hip-hop.
Talk about the racial element here, because another thing we often associate with hip hop is that it's from the black culture, and yet, just as I mentioned, early rock and roll started out as black culture, and then white people adopted it. It's New Orleans jazz, same thing, and it's kind of. Robin and I we used to do a piece on video called. What did we call it? Notables. And one of the things, and this might have something to do with the culture of America at that time, but there was a black songwriter whose songs were sometimes credited. I'm not saying Stephen Foster didn't write any songs, but some of this, there was a black guy. I wish I could remember his name.
I can't remember his name.
And he was credited to Stephen Foster, and it was because of the publisher's reluctance to admit that a black guy wrote these songs. I mean, and so that's kind of what we've inherited a little bit.
Well, I think what you're speaking to that's consistent in a variety of media and entertainment things is something that moves from a subculture to the mainstream. And hip-hop wasn't something that was accepted even within the quote-unquote black mainstream at its earliest component. It was a youth culture. It was regionally specific. And
where was it? What was the region?
It was, in the Bronx, in New York.
Oh, really?
The South Bronx is considered the birthplace. But
it's my birthplace too, by the way.
Hey,
there you go.
I have something in common with hip hop. I never knew.
You got good roots. I'm a New Yorker too, so But anyway, it was a subculture at the time, and it was birthed out of a very specific, unique set of conditions. And so it wasn't on the radar of any mainstream, not black mainstream, not the broader mainstream. But after time, and because it resonated so powerfully around kind of this core value of self and community improvement, and really started to have a ripple effect within the region, and people, began to have a voice and began to be empowered by this, and it was creative and it's fun and exciting, then individuals realized that, wow, this is something that we can market, that we can sell.
Right.
It has staying power, and anytime you get a market involved in something, it both from an exposure standpoint and a changing of or reinterpretation of what that culture is about happens, and that's a big part of what you see today.
Very true.
And so what you have now is a marketed product that is a piece of an overall culture.
Oh, okay.
and so it still has its power in a variety of places, but unfortunately what gets promoted is just a narrow sliver. And I often equate it that. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, what? Okay, I'm trying to relate this because I would understand rock and roll more than I would hip hop. Okay, and so I'm trying to relate it to that. So in the rock and roll culture, it wasn't just about the music; it was about the tie-dye shirts, about the headbands, the long hair, the bell-bottom pants. I'm trying to think of the other marketable things.
The flower child.
The other marketable things. So in hip hop, it's not just about the music either, right? When you say culture, it goes beyond the music, right?
Right. So, at its most basic, you have several different elements The emceeing and the DJing is what people would consider rap music. And then there's a whole conversation about content and what goes into that. But anyway, those are two main elements. So the emceeing is the rapping part of the vocal, the wordplay component of it. DJing and production is the musical side of it. And each of those is their own individual culture in and of itself. You have a DJ culture that may have nothing to do with words. It's simply the artistic, what people call turntablism. It's the artistic side of what you do with sounds using turntables, and then there's production as well as beat making, and there's an enormous piece that goes into it that may have nothing to do with any words, any language whatsoever. But then you also have the art side, or what people know as graffiti, and then there's the dance side. The traditional name is b-boying or b-girling, but people refer to it as breakdancing. Again, may have nothing to do with any words, the things that are most caustic to people, which is the language and all that. Those other elements may have zero words at all as a component of them. And then the fifth element of hip-hop is knowledge of self, which is that constant self-reflection and introspection, and, that's the identity aspect of the culture. And again, it all centers around this common value of self and community improvement. And so a lot of times when people see a video or song that gets viral and popular, it completely misses 80% of what the culture is about.
Really?
And how it's being used in classrooms, in after school and summer programs, in therapeutic environments, for both learning and for growth. And that's a big part of what this book is about, is helping people understand the bigger picture. Because what happens is people get turned off by the language and dismiss an entire culture and miss 90% of what's really going on.
And it's a good point if we want to understand each other, too, I think. Let me put you on hold just for a second. We've got a commercial break coming up. Dr. Raphael Travis is on the phone. Where are you calling from? Are you in Texas?
Yes. I'm calling from Austin, Texas.
The book is The Healing Power of Hip Hop, Intersections of Race, Ethnicity, and Culture. We'll take a break and be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. On this Monday, mostly sunny but cooler than recent days with a high of 58 to 62. Clear and rather cold Monday night with lows ranging from the mid-30s inland to the low 40s on the coast. Tuesday, partly sunny and quite cool, high 54 to 58. For Wednesday, times of clouds and sunshine, high 62 to 66. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Whether you're building it up or knocking it down, get it done, rent it now. Sunbelt Rentals is here to make your job a little easier. Our knowledgeable staff will help you find the right equipment for any job, big or small. Did you know that Sunbelt Rentals carries heaters, air conditioners, generators, lighting, traffic control, and so much more? So whether you're building it up or knocking it down, we've got the equipment you need. Get it done, rent it now. And right now, for a limited time, you can have it for less. Just by mentioning this ad, if you rent it Friday afternoon, you can keep it the whole weekend and only pay for one. But this is a limited time offer, so stop into Sunbelt Rentals today, Northwest 27th, a mile east of I-75. For more information, just give us a call, 352-369-9101. 352-369-9101. Sunbelt Rentals. Get it done, rent it now. 352-369-9101.
Here's what you may have missed on the John Tesh Radio Show.
Cats are curious, and one of the biggest mysteries to a cat is a closed door. That's why they try to scoot inside with us or stick a paw under the door to get our attention. A lot of women like tattoos on their feet and ankles, which can easily be shown off by wearing sandals or going barefoot. But since there's so little fat in those areas, be prepared to really grit your teeth while you're getting inked. Did you know the latest research tells us rude behavior can become contagious?
Intelligence for your life on the John Tesh Radio Show. Don't miss this stuff.
Enrich your life at Golden Ocala Golf and Equestrian Club. Here, century-old oak trees surround stunning homes, the finest resort-style amenities, and a stately clubhouse. Our exceptional golf course will host the 2016 Coates Golf Championship presented by R&L Carriers. And here you can savor a luxurious lifestyle that's second to none. Call 352-369-6969 for more information on our available real estate options and to schedule a home tour.
Located in Ocala, Renstar Medical Research has offered a wide range of clinical research trials for 17 years. Renstar conducts clinical trials for conditions such as migraines, memory decline, fibromyalgia, and sun-damaged skin. To learn more, call Renstar at 352-629-5800. Help us create a healthier tomorrow by volunteering today. Please call Renstar at 352-629-5800.
10 minutes before 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. On the phone, Dr. Raphael Travis. He's calling in from Texas. He's written a book called The Healing Power of Hip Hop. And if you're here in the mall, you probably hear a lot of hip hop. Now, help me understand the difference between hip hop and rap. Is rap the music of hip hop?
Yes. Again, going back to our prior discussion, rap is the emceeing and DJing component of the broader culture, which also includes the dance, the art, knowledge of self, and so rap music is just a sliver.
Help me understand the healing power part of the title. In what way does it heal?
Well, you started off the conversation well in talking about how your own music helped you feel better.
Right.
And I think that's a big part of, the conversation is broader than just hip hop itself. All music, it carries that ability to feel better. But what I'm interested in helping people understand is that there's more functional value as well. So feel better is one component, but it's also to do better. You're talking about not just working through situations emotionally where you may be sad, you want to kind of be more motivated and pick yourself up, but we're also talking about people coping with really challenging situations in their lives and are really looking for strategies to help them cope and deal and actually do better and improve in their life. But we're also talking about being better as well, being at your best, being the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
And as well as better belonging and better connecting in those communities that you're a part of, whether it's the family or the workplace or a team setting or your neighborhood or even racial and ethnic communities. A better sense of connection. And then the last one is improving the conditions of those communities that you're a part of.
Okay. One of the things that I think attracted us to rock music was the anti-establishment aspect of it. Does hip-hop or rap have that same allure? I mean, is that part of it also? Is that you can sort of feel like, I'm sick and tired of people telling me this is how I have to be because this is how I want to be?
Yeah, I think there are two components of that. So in one way you can categorize it as anti-establishment, but the other is simply just around your identity and standing for something as an individual and wanting to speak to what you consider your truth. And then on the other end of the spectrum is, there may be some conditions in the communities that you're a part of that you want to see some tangible improvements of. You want to improve the psychological and material conditions of the communities that you're a part of. You could say establishment, at the largest macro level being, the government or society, or, bringing it much more closer to home and even your family situation. There may be aspects of your environment that you're not happy with and the music that you connect with that, brings a voice to something that maybe you couldn't quite articulate, on your own in a way, and it really resonates you. And that's one of the things that's so great about artists is they figured out a way to be succinct and speak to issues in a different kind of way. And I think that's one of the fundamental things that attracts people to music and art in general.
Does religion play an important part in the words of the hip-hop song? Are they encouraging more young people to find a church they like and go there and explore their spirituality?
There's a really strong hip hop and spirituality community. I don't talk about it quite as much in my own work, but one of the people that I work with, Dr. Alexis Maston, as a matter of fact, she's a spoken word poet, and she wrote there's a poem in the very beginning of my book called For Every Rose. But anyway, in her own research, she explores spirituality in hip hop, and it's a very large community and is actively around the message that you speak of and helping people connect to their spirituality and church and not just churches, but there's across the spiritual diaspora.
You just said something that you triggered. In the beginning of October, Robert and I went to a convention or a conference up in Chattanooga, and it was for the Association of Campus Activities. And basically, everybody that was there was a young person. By young, I mean college age, and so we're clearly 40 years their senior, and it was very refreshing. I loved the experience of being there. So we went to some of these shows because it's all about entertainers, the singers, the musicians, and they had one part where they had poets, and they were hip hop poets. You just reminded me of it because the way they recited their poetry from the stage was so much more exciting than what I'm typically used to when I hear somebody reading a poem. I mean, usually it's like a little dainty person, and you're reading,
Right.
But these people were up on stage. They were flailing their arms, and they were da 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 da.
Oh, they were loud.
And I said, "Wow, this is like acting. This is to me. It was very much more colorful, presented that way." Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I'm contributing to this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think from a person, immersed in the culture, we would say that's hip hop. You know what I mean? Like that, there is a visceral, there's a physical expression aspect that is something that is rewarding. It can be rewarding to the person, like yourself that's in the audience, but in the ability, when you just take a step back and think about your ability to express yourself, you can express yourself more fully if you're able to vocalize it, but you're also able to kind of emote physically. Yeah. And I think that's an aspect of, not to say that's not available in other, contexts as well, but that's something that we consider kind of an aspect of the culture that's important too.
Let me ask you something. If we've got 3 minutes. If there's a teacher listening right now, and she decides to bring your book, The Healing Power of Hip Hop, to class and make a little class about this, a lesson about this, I bet you the kids would love this. I mean, you said it's not necessarily a young thing, but I bet you those kids would love. You're kidding? We're going to learn about the hip hop culture?
Yeah,
they would love this.
Yeah. And and one of the things that I strongly encourage, it's not one of those things sort of like a plug and play, And the reason I wrote the book is to try to help people have a little bit of a deeper understanding of the culture. And it's not something to kind of come in and say some things that rhyme with whatever academic content and things are going to be better. However, fundamentally, at the end of the day, with any type of art and hip hop that you engage, I just ask people to ask two questions. What can I learn and how can I grow? And if you are able to pull out the answers to that question, that will help them understand how they can best use it in a classroom, therapeutically, in a program. But absolutely, kids can be engaged when it's done the right way.
The Healing Power of Hip Hop. Dr. Raphael Travis, thank you so much for being on the air with us. Give us some information on how we can look you up. Maybe you have a website or get the book.
Yes, absolutely. The book is available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, Target. If you type in Healing Power of Hip Hop, Raphael Travis, you can also Google me. I also have a website, flowstory.org. That's FLOWSTORY.org. And those are the best ways. But I really appreciate the invitation. I'm so glad that you allowed me the time to talk about this book and really connect with your understanding of the culture. And again, thank you so much for having me on.
Well, thank you. And one quick question. Do you have any birds? I hear birds behind you. Are you outside or in a pet shop or something?
I hope it's not birds, but perhaps it's the heat. It's a little bit cold down here.
Oh, it's a heater, I'm hearing.
Yeah, so
Oh.
you probably hear the heater. So I apologize if it's too loud.
Can you hear it, the Robin? No, it's not loud. It just
No,
sounds like you got birds behind
yeah,
you.
little birds, like parakeets or
I
something.
do that for all my interviews. I want more of an outdoor feel.
Doctor, thank you so much for being on the air with us today. That was I absolutely agree with you. I think music is healing, and in your case, your whole culture, it really makes sense to me. Thank you, Doctor. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Fox News Radio, I'm Pat O'Neill. A search is on in Iraq for 3 Americans, reportedly civilians, who have gone missing in Baghdad.